Alright, so tonight I am going to talk about what I've learned in a small excerpt from the book, Seneca's book on the shortness of life. And this excerpt talks about, it's from page 38 to 39, talks about being basically a stoic, about life and the necessities and preparation for life to be happy. In the beginning, he says that every human being is born with all the natural equipment to be happy. Every man or woman can make him have the necessary equipment by nature to make themselves happy, his or herself. And it says that everything on the outside, external stuff, are trivial. And the greatest one of the thing that struck me the most was that prosperity do not elevate the sage, and adversity do not depress him, and that Seneca himself do not call himself a sage because to be on that level of sageness, you're basically close to a god. So there's a few things I find very striking. One thing is that when he says nature has a natural equipment, it goes third says that every man can make himself happy. So I guess from learning from Jonathan Haidt's book on the happiness hypothesis, he says that work, love, and internal happiness is what will make you happy or bring you fulfillment, happiness, health, wealth, love, and happiness. Right? Seneca, in the sense, is that your happiness comes from the inside first, then the outside. And when you have that, everything else will just won't really change you. You become very adapted. He says that prosperity do not elevate the sage, and adversity do not depress the sage. That strikes me is a very striking thing to say because the next phrase is more striking. But what he means is that a sage is very humble, and he does not become arrogant when things are great, but he just stays calm and level, and he does not get depressed when things are against him. Meaning he's very stoic, he's very tough. He doesn't he doesn't let his guard down. He doesn't have his guard up, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that he's very humble. He does not allow things to make him arrogant or make him depressed. And if it does, he just move on to the next thing. If it makes him great, he goes, okay, that's cool, and move on to the next thing. And the next thing that Seneca says that he does not call himself a sage because to call himself a sage would be equivalent of saying that he is a god. That is very surprising because Seneca, later he says, surrender himself to wise men. Meaning he is not infallible. In fact, he has flaws. Every human being has flaws. And I guess from my point of view is that if you don't have flaws or any sort of cons, then you're not human. You're basically God. You're basically on the level of a God because gods are perfect beings and gods are actually created in the ideal or in the perfection in the eye of men. At least that's according to a lot of gods, or from what I've known. Not being religious here, it's just that's what I came to realize. We read that a lot of time gods are created to explain natural disaster, natural phenomenon, rain, drought, and all that stuff. They literally think that if you sip blood up, if you sacrifice something, good things will happen. Anyways, so in order to become smart, to not let like fortune brings you prosperity and adversity. In order to not be swayed or or brought down by fortune, that Seneca himself surrenders himself to wise men, learning things from the past, learning how to see things far ahead into the future by reading the life and history and philosophy of others. So in that he is prepared when fortune gives him good stuff, gives him prosperity. He's not gonna be in over his head, and at the same time, when fortune gives him adversity, when that happens, he knows what to do. He is prepared. It's like when Mike Tyson says that one thing that he wished is that someone taught him how to manage money. What fortune gives you, she can readily take away. And so a person has to be on guard about himself. Basically, not let himself get in over his head and unguard himself because like a lot of people, when some great things happen, this happened to me before too, that they literally go, wow, this awesome shit happened in my life. My life is great. I don't have to no longer worry about this and that. Yay! They become careless. So I guess what I'm actually trying to say is, Seneca said, do not become careless when prosperity comes, because fortune is right around the corner, ready to take it. So guard yourself. Don't be careless, basically. Even when adversity hits, people also become careless. You freak out like about all the little things. And that he also talks about how he creates a cushion between fortune and himself, because he will arrange things so that it doesn't affect him when bad things happen. It's like Lao Tzu. He says, prepare for what is difficult when it is easy. What else is what? This is that no man has been shattered by the blows of fortune, unless he was first deceived by her favors. Those who loved her gifts as if they were their own forever, who wanted to be admired on account of them, are laid low and grieve when the false and transient pleasures desert their vain and childish minds, ignorant of every stable pleasure. So, what that really says is that when something good happens, we become careless, we start fantasizing about shit, and we literally think we have this forever, that nothing can take it away from us, and guess what? When it happens, we freak the fuck out. We literally freak out, and basically we just like, oh my god, what's going on? And it says, in the next sense, then just say that a man who is not puffed up by that are not affected, because he understands it. Fortune comes and goes. Adversity will always happen in life, and prosperity will always happen. You just can't be careless. Done.